here today in a customer's bathroom who just went through a hip replacement surgery. And a lot of times when people have trouble getting down low and standing back up, toilets can be a particular issue because they're pretty low. One of the solutions to this is what this customer currently has. And it raises the sit point of the toilet by probably about 6 inches, 5-6 inches, whatever that is. This is not a particularly sanitary choice because when you're sitting on it, the distance of material between point A and point B is much greater and it can become soiled. What we're going to do with this is raise the toilet from the bottom, so they're actually sitting on the toilet with the seat. And we have this kit here, right here, that we'll see. And you can see on this direction that there is a little riser that goes over the closet flange. And that's what the toilet sits on. So it's basically raising the base of the toilet up. The first thing that we're going to do with this is we're going to shut the water off. Then we're going to vacuum all of the water out of the toilet after we've flushed it. And then we're going to take this toilet up and then we're going to put the kit together. And right now, I'm not hearing any water fill this tank back up. So when we pull this, the water level is not rising because we turned the shutoff valve off. Now we will take this shock vac like this. Always have that like that. Vacuum the water. We're going to vacuum this water right out of the tank. Now from here, we're going to take off these bolt caps and undo the bolts. I might have to get a screwdriver for these, but that one popped off. We're going to take some pliers, and this is actually loose. In addition to checking or to raising this toilet, we're also going to be checking for leaks. And when I can unscrew a bolt like that, it's not the best thing in the world. It means that the toilet was loose, and that could very possibly be a reason for that leaking. I'm going to try to get this off here without a screwdriver, there we go. And this bolt is, again, these should not be this loose. You don't want to over tighten these bolts, but to have loose bolts like that is a big problem. Now that we vacuumed out the tank and we vacuumed out the bowl, there's no water in here. The shutoff valve is off. I'm going to undo this right here. This is the supply line. I'm going to undo this from the back of the tank. And when you're doing this, be careful to unscrew this portion that's attached to the hose and not this bolt up here. You'll see kind of that actually holds the flow valve in place. And there's just a little bit of water there, not much. And now we can take the toilet off. Now that we have the toilet out, I'm going to show you a couple things. The first, we have this wax ring that the toilet was originally sitting on. It doesn't look like it was making good contact with the toilet originally because it's actually intact here on the floor or on the closet flange. Usually when we pull this up and it's bonded well to the toilet, the wax just pulls apart and it's a big mess. This was probably sitting loosely on this. They probably could have used a jumbo wax ring in this case. The closet flange is 1/4 of an inch. It's flush with the tile. Usually, sometimes the closet flange is sitting on top of the tile, and that's when a regular wax ring would just fit just fine. But I'm going to take this box from the second wax ring, and I'm actually going to kind of recycle it here. I'm going to move in, and this is what's called a reinforced wax ring. And the reinforcement is this plastic here that goes on and around the ring, and it goes into the closet flange, and that's the reinforced part of a wax ring. So I'm going to take all that wax off, I'm going to scrape it and put it into the box, and that's ready to go. The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to take these bolts off. These are not as loose as the other bolts the toilet was on. Normally, we don't put bolts on we don't bolt the bolts to the closet flange. We just bolt the toilet to it. A lot of times people will do this with the bolts, and I've been known to do it as well. When you're setting a toilet yourself, it's really good to have these stable. And when you don't have these bolts on there, or when you don't bolt the bolts to the closet flange, they'll move around, and when you're seating the toilet on it, they'll rock back and forth, and it's really difficult to get the toilet on. So sometimes people will bolt them to the closet flange so it's more stable, so that when they set the toilet to the closet flange, the bolts don't move around, and that's why people do that. In most wax ring kits, these come with sort of these plastic washers that slip on and create some friction so they don't move, but I've never found them to be that great. So we're going to take those, put those away, get that out. So now we're going to take a look at what came in this kit. This was ordered from vitalitymedical.com. I'm sure you can get this at a number of different places. You have 3 sets of instructions. This is English, French, and Spanish. And je ne parle français, no hable espagnol, so we're going to go with the English instructions. In this kit, and these are very simple instructions, but in this kit, it comes with 2 wax rings, an extension for the supply line because the toilet's going to be higher. It comes with the razor for the closet flange, 2 sets of bolts, and 2 sets of washers. And then it comes with these nut caps here that will go on. We're actually going to use the original ones because it's the toilet is a kind of an off-white. One of the things that the customer was talking about was water was leaking, that there is a potential leak somewhere down below. Bathroom floors are not waterproof. There is this area right in here where water can get in. The floor is not supposed to prevent water from leaking. The toilet's supposed to be seated properly, and that's what's supposed to prevent water from leaking. But what we'll do is we'll fill this perimeter here. Water could still get in where the bolts go in, but we'll fill this with the hope that if for some reason the toilet ever comes loose or somebody resets this again, that the water will more flow out onto the floor, and you'll see it leaking from underneath the toilet rather than leaking into the substrate. So the first thing I'm going to do is just caulk around here and here, and I'll also clean this up. Now, one of the things that's fortunate about this, we kind of see some water staining here. This gives me a sense of where the toilet seats, and what I can kind of do here is get a sense for where this will go in terms of these bolts. You can set this any number of places, and I think it will be on setting number 3 that it will cover this perfectly. So that's going to go like that, and that sits nicely where the toilet seat, it covers that stain. Okay, so the first step here, we're going to put the wax ring and the 2 bolts back into place. These are the longer bolts, and these are pretty wobbly, but it doesn't really matter because we're not really setting anything down on the wax ring yet. Now that we have that in hole number 3, which I'm going to make sure this is centered. I'm going to take this, which is the extender, and push it into this wax ring. And I'm going to seat that. And that's got a nice contact. I don't know if you can get a good shot in there, but that is now sitting on and the first set of bolts is going to go here. Washer. Get this next one from the side. Whenever you tighten bolts, whether it be on ceramic, or rather porcelain toilet, or plastic, you don't want to over tighten this. So we're going to do this by hand first, and then we're just going to take pliers and give this one complete turn. You could put lock nut on this, but I don't really feel like that is the wisest thing to do. There is a really nice compression all the way around, and everything that goes down goes into the pipe. So before I put the toilet in, I am going to undo this here. Go. I'm going to put this new one on. One of the things to keep in mind is you do not need plumber's tape on this threading, because there is a little rubber ring in there that when this compresses, it creates a seal. You don't want to over tighten that, but you do want to make sure it's snug. Go. Now we're ready to put the toilet on. This is our second wax ring, and we're going to set this on the raised closet flange here, the extender for the closet flange. That's seated nicely.
Good on the right.
Now, this side up. So I go there. Hit that with that. There. And we're going to reattach the supply line here. I see the water fill the bowl back up. Water goes back in there. And one of the things that I'm going to do is just put my hands on these two joints to feel if there's any water. Sometimes when the cold water runs through, you get a little bit of condensation. You just got to be careful. Sometimes I'll take a piece of toilet paper and just dab it just to make sure there's no leak. But these are nicely tightened and nothing's coming out, so we're good. Seems to be seating nicely. There we go.